Hello, this is R-Rats with Team 45 League, analyzing the game between Fireball and Frankly. Played in team event number 53 in the under 1600 section. White's team is ahead 1-0. Let's see what happens. Okay, the King's Gambit. These games are always interesting. And Black declines. Let's see, what's that called? The Falkbeer? Whatever it's called. Okay, so D5 and then E4. Now this is the theme of this declined version. The black pawn on E4 will try to cramp the white game. There's an interesting move that I've seen some people play, is taking on F4. It should be no trouble for white to keep a mild advantage, but it's something white needs to be prepared for, or black will do okay out of it. So I just wanted to mention this. For those that watch these videos that play either side of this position of the King's Gambit, you might want to take a peek at these lines because they're interesting. Okay, so let's revert and go forward. And I don't really know all the theory on this, but that's not important. What I know, it's what happens on the board and what do you know and what do you learn. Now white's got this imposing pawn center, but no development, and black just comes in and grabs the pawn. Why not? It certainly looks like a good move to me, so white's got to step carefully now. What's white do? Well, the first move that runs into my mind as a candidate move is Queen D4. The reason of Queen D4 is because it attacks the knight and centralizes the queen. But there's two potential drawbacks to that move. Not right at the moment, but okay. Black's going to deal with the knight. He could deal with it by F5 or Bishop F5, but in either case, black's either has a double threat, Bishop C5, and if that doesn't work, depending on white's move, black could threaten Knight C6, and white can't take it. The pawn is pinned. So I'm not sure what book is here. This is book, but probably nothing at all wrong with Knight F3. Develops the piece, but now suddenly black has infested the white position. So white's got to play careful. So the fact that black is playing quickly leads me to believe this is book, but I don't know. You guys can tell me. Okay, Queen E2. And check. Now this seems to be kind of dangerous for both sides. White's king can't castle, and black has a knight which is under attack, which is guarding a bishop on F2. So see what white does. Give a check. I mean, what black does, gives a check. Okay. And like I say, the way this position is, if this is still book, I don't know. It looks like black has gained quite a lot here. He's getting all of his pieces out. He has won a pawn. White can't castle. Black's ready to castle. Then just develop his queen side, and everything's hunky-dory. The bishop on F2 could retreat, and that creates a new threat of knight F2 check. Well, not just yet. The king has to castle because it's pinned. Let's see what black does. He castles, and then I think white tries to undermine that knight. Yeah, okay. But this comes at a price. It doubled pawns, but at the same time it got rid of an active black piece, and white needed a little breathing room here. So it seems to me, just at this point, the white opening has failed, and black has come out of this okay. All black needs to do now is first safeguard the bishop on F2, and then get the last two minor pieces developed and go from there. Okay, so step one done. Now, I don't know, black could probably just trade queens here and be okay, but that undoubles the white pawns if white wants to. Material is still even. I would just keep the queens on. Yeah, that would be my first thing, would be to trade queens, but this is fine. Queen C5 keeps some pressure on C3, even though it's well guarded. It also prepares a potential bishop F5 with tempo. So let's see what white does. Threatens mate. Black's got to deal with it. And he dealt with it by giving a check. Nothing wrong with that. What was wrong with bishop F5, I wonder? That was my my first candidate move. Let's see. Go back. What's wrong with this? Okay, what's white do? You can't play queen h3 because that square is covered. So what does white do? Queen f3, queen g3. And either one of those moves takes the queen away from protecting the bishop on d2, so black might be able to get away with pinning it. I don't know, white could try to trade queens with queen c4. Yeah, it's an interesting line. The players will have to tell us what's possible there, but certainly there's nothing wrong with stopping and giving a check. But it does help white get his development complete a little bit, although black is doing the same. And now take with check. That thwarts the mate threat. And that white king is just looking awful frisky here. Queen f2 check at some point could be coming, but black has to deal with the checkmate that's facing him. Now I'm not sure if f5 is the best way to do it. It just it creates direct weakness against the king, and white's able to take advantage of that in a few moves. But g6 could have been okay, and then develop the knight and develop a rook with check or with a tempo on the queen. But anyway, white attempts to castle by hand. This is smart. He's going to run the king over to the queen side, and even if he has to stop on d1 and just stay there for a while. Okay, so I'm not sure if giving the check right at this moment was the correct move. Just develop the piece, then you can check with the other rook, or tempo the queen with the other rook. So this check just seems to commit black to getting into the trouble that he does, because he's going to get in trouble here because he's just not being careful. And one of the reasons why black's getting in trouble here, just look at the clocks, okay? White has consumed a lot of clock time reaching this position, and he's kind of solved it. He's finding his way out. But look at black's clock, 43 minutes and 46 seconds. That means he's basically spending his increment every move, and that's it. So he's not going into any long, detailed think here. If he does, he's got a chance just play the logical move here. I mean, what is white threatening here? Absolutely nothing. White has nothing here. Just knight c6, develop a piece. What's white going to do? Okay. Does he want to get his king to safety? Well, maybe. Okay, fine. Boom. Rook d8. Rook a d8. Now that pressures the queen. Now the queen's got to find a new home, right? Okay. Then you've got a pin on the bishop. Okay, so let's suppose we come over here and threaten mate. Well, black can deal with that. Okay, h6. Now what's white do? He's got to move his knight. Now the knight does come back, and it protects the bishop, but you know, black's just got a nice game here. He's got the better pawn structure, and the white attack is stopped cold in its tracks. Black's even slightly better off in development. The white king is in more great danger than the black king. And all black does is make one simple developing move, knight c6, on just 3 moves before, and look what he has. He's got a tremendous game. How hard is it to develop your pieces? You know that. Everyone knows that's the rule. So why? And here's the thing too. If black exchanges rooks, the king's got to get a check. If black's exchanging rooks here, then he's trading his active rook in effect for a passive black rook. I mean, a passive white rook. Why? Why do you want to trade a good piece for a bad piece? So, like I say, sometimes people just don't think when they move. They're playing on impulse. They see a check, they give a check. What's that old saying? Pots or see a check, pots or give a check. Well, it seems to hold true here. Okay, so black got his aim, he got his check. Now, it's not too late here to develop his knight. I think that's the best move. This pawn's a little freer now, although it's still safeguarded by the queen. But what's black do? Now he does knight c6. But I think this was the point already. White starts getting some play here, though, and black just ran out of gas. Okay. Right. Yeah. Let me just go back to make sure I wasn't missing something. When. Okay, so what the trouble black ran into was white ended up getting queen d7 in the game, and it just started combining all kinds of threats on the king. So knight c6, one move earlier, I'm pretty sure it just stops it all. I don't see how white makes a great deal of progress because his rook on e1 isn't in play. So black just made the mistake one move early, because now knight c6, all of a sudden white has a little activity here. And see if you can find it. Okay, I've kind of given some hints to it already. White to play and do the best he can. Pause the video. Okay, you've restarted it. Did you find this check? Okay, good. Now queen d7, and now the black position is exposed to be flawed, because the rook is under attack. It's not supported by another rook, right? Because white's managed to trade him off, and black allowed it by giving that check. That rook could have been safely tucked on f7 or on f8, where it's securing f7 and f5. But now the rook's under attack, and suddenly white's got some tremendous attacking potential here. Okay, so now he tries queen e7, but it really doesn't matter what he tried here. He was in trouble. I think rook e7 simply fails to queen c8, and I think black gets checkmated here, or awful close to it. He's going to drop his rook at least, and probably more. Queen check and knight check, and then knight discover check somewhere, and it's gruesome. But black chose queen e7, and white punishes that. And then here, white missed his best move. What he played was fine. Well, maybe it wasn't this move yet. I think he checked first with the knight. Yeah. White missed his best move. His best move is rook e1. Oh, and notice that finally now black is starting to take his time on the clock. He realizes something's up, and now that white got his attention, he's taking his time. Well, white had his attention right out of the opening. White had a bad opening. That's enough time, enough to let you know it's time to sit down and find the best move. So just because you suddenly feel you're losing doesn't mean that's the time you start to take your time. When you suddenly have a great game, that's when a good time to take your time is, because if you can sit and take 10-15 minutes and work out the very best continuations and get a really strong game going, then you can afford to play a little quicker later on, because you'll have an easier position to play from. Anyway, but rook e1 just destroys black. He can't do anything. Taking here fails immediately. It's mate, right? There's a pin. So what does black do against rook e1? I mean, anything you look at is losing. You can give up the queen for the rook, fine. You know, you can play queen d. You can't play queen d6. You're just going to run into a smothered mate, right? We all know that trick, right? If king f8, you get mate in 1. If king h8, you go into smothered mate. Well, you even have rook takes e8 if anything else. But white can just count as wins. But rook e1 just wins by force, and what white did was okay, and it was good enough to win. But when you got a guy down, you got to find the best moves. So, okay, white played this. And looks like he's just going for the exchange, and there's a way for black to try to save the exchange, but it just loses. It's kind of clever, I think. I don't know if white planned this or not. I noticed, I was watching the game, black made a point that white missed rook e1 and he was going for the exchange. Well, maybe he doesn't win the exchange. I said, okay, what's he looking at? Well, he must be looking at queen e6. But here, pause the video, white to play and do the best he can. What does white do here? He can't take the rook. Okay, so you've resumed the video. Now did you find rook e1 again? It's rather clever, because now white sacrifices his queen. And there's a big checkmate right there. So maybe white saw this, and we'll give him credit for that if he did. But I guess black looked a little further and realized that white had that move after all, and he just parked the king here, and white just starts collecting material. There's the exchange. And now he finds the right move, and now white just starts increasing the pressure. Now he's planning f6, and if the king can move, the bishop would be pinned, and it could be potentially giving a mate on h6 if black takes on f6 with his pawn. Okay, so black just kind of moves around, and they may not be the best moves being played here, but white finds a way to win. Now here, instead of g4, just f6 is killer. What's black do? You're going to open them up like a can of worms. If bishop take, or if g takes, you just have bishop takes here, mate, right? And the king is going to be exposed here. White's going to play pawn takes and then take with the queen or the bishop and then swing the rook into play, and black's just hurting. But there's nothing wrong with what white played. It just doesn't win as fast. And here, you see a move like this and you say, well, it's desperation time because everything else is worse, so black just goes for what he can, give up some material to try for a perpetual check. If white's careless, it could happen, but white wasn't careless. He took his time, and even though black's collecting a pawn or two, it's just a matter of time before the checks run out. And there may have been a quicker way for white to do this, or might have, but doesn't really matter. What he's seen is good enough, and black's running out of gas. Now here, this just allows a mate. If black was going to allow a mate, why not just play c5? And you say, why that? Well, let's just suppose that white has a mouse slip, okay? Because that's about all that's going to save black now. Well, then now black has his own checkmate, right? So that's the point I wanted to make there. Okay, so now white to play and do the best he can. Pause the video. Okay, you've restarted. What'd you find? Did you find the mate in 2? I hope so. Here it is. Check and mate. Very good game, Fireball. You hung in there and found the win out of a bad position. Frankly, you just played too quick, and that cost you the game. Frankly, that's true. And I don't mean to be frank or discourteous, but I've mentioned this countless times in so many videos. You guys are always playing too fast. This is a standard game. You take your time. You take your time, you will find better moves. If you don't take your time, then, well, things like this are going to happen. All right. Thank you so much for looking at this, for taking the time to spend it and observe and listen. And I'll see you again with the next video. Take care.